Thank you for joining me. Yeah, all good. Mirja is making her way. It's a full house. I mean, that's fantastic. I say again, thank you. And also make sure to share on social media. Use the hashtag ITB Berlin Convention to let everyone know you're here. Mirja, thank you so much for joining. Let's have a seat and please feel like at home. Thank you so much for coming in. It's an absolute honor. And let me do this properly once again so we know what excellence we have on stage here. So we have the VP Hospitality Distribution from Amadeus, Mia Zickel. Mia, thank you so much for being here once again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a revival. You've been here last year. Yeah, and we wanted you back because it was so fantastic. So we said
and
she
I have
has
some
to
new
come back.
opinions. So I'm happy to
You have
share.
new opinions. Okay, good. There was some progress. Thoughts, that's great. Then we have the general manager for EMEA, that's correct, Europe EMEA, yeah, from Trip.com Group, Andy Washington. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Great to see you all here. Some new faces, some older faces.
Older faces. Is that kind? Okay, good.
We are friends, honestly.
That's good, right. And then all the way from the Netherlands, thank you so much for joining us. We have the Chief Technology Officer from the Sunweb Group, Deepika Gupta.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm super stoked that you're here. And, well, we heard now from McKinsey, we heard from Paula Felser from HBX Group, and I mean, you probably know it yourself, right? You read the headlines for a year, and then you're entirely confused because every year there's a new hype. Last year, I think it was metaverse and blockchain. Everyone wanted to speak about metaverse. I can say that from the ITB Berlin convention team, we get the call for papers. Last year was entirely metaverse. This year it was all AI. So how do you do that in the operations? How do you actually distinguish what is a trend and what's more a hype? What's maybe something you can, you should know about, but you should not necessarily act upon. So maybe I start with you, Mirja. From your perspective, how do you distinguish a trend from a hype? How do you do that?
Yeah, difficult question to start with, no? Definitely. Good morning, everybody. First of all, you already mentioned some hypes, no, or trends, because let me as well, when I start to talk about what is my opinion, what we see from a technology point of view in Amadeus, put some of the hypes or trends, you need to decide that, but some terms into your head, so we are at the same page of what we are talking about. You said AI, virtual reality, blockchain, hyperloop, Internet of Things. So all these are terms of technology we have been hearing about, and I think it's for us to determine if these are only hypes or we can really use them in our day-to-day. Because for me, technology moves from being a hype to reality if it adds something in terms of values to our day-to-day life. So either it enables us to simplify, something we have always been doing, or it even enables us to do something we were not capable of doing without the technology. So this in terms of our personal lives. If you try to bring these to the business context, I think it's the same, moving away from a theoretical term or concept to bring something to reality, to use technology to have a business use case. This is for me the key fundamental.
Okay.
And in terms of business, you need to look at three different aspects. No? So either you improve customer satisfaction, you decrease cost, or you increase revenue. So technology can help in all three. And that's what you always need to think about. How can technology help me in order to bring the value to my business, attaching one of these three dimensions I just mentioned? And I could mention some examples as well from Amadeus.
Yeah, we can dive into that later.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear from you, Deepika, because Sunweb Group, right? You have a lot of B2B customers. You're operating in a quite big ecosystem. How do you do that internally? I mean, you are the Chief Technology Officer. Are you running after each trend and you're changing the budget every month because there's a new headline, or how do you approach this?
No, not really. So Sunweb Group is a specialized holiday packages provider. Right. And as part of that, of course, we work with a big ecosystem with the different hotels, airlines, excursion providers. But this year we launched the tech strategy, which is about being digital from the core. So we've been focusing a lot in improving the digital experience for the customer, improving their experience, but also the conversion rate. But this year we said if we really have to make speed, we have to be digital from the core. And that meant really making digital offerings towards our suppliers, so towards the hoteliers, but also towards our employees, which is the customer care agents, also the guides at the destinations. So that really comes by having a strategy in place and a roadmap to follow. Unfortunately, it is not as quick as following a headline, But I think it is important to keep an eye on these trends because we've seen certain very successful prototypes which have actually led to mainstream business models. And that is basically what we're doing, and we talk about it later more as part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, that gives a good idea. And I mean, Andy, from your perspective, right, Trip.com is serving mainly the B2C sector in that sense. How do you approach this? I mean, is it driven by the consumer? Where do you see how do you differentiate
Yeah,
the trends?
that's the main word entirely. It's all about the consumer.
All about
so
the
I agree with
consumer.
very much all the points that you make, but too many travel companies think about an I like, I want mentality. If you go back 15 years ago when apps were hitting the market, everyone built an app. Got to have an app.
Right.
But why? What are you solving for? What is that customer behavior? If you remember QR codes 5, 6 years ago, no one adopted them. They were all on marketing campaigns. No one would use them. COVID changed that because it became a habit and a need, and then a behavior. So everything we do at Trip.com is focused on not just big data, but smart data, which is the customer's behaviors. What are you solving for? You're solving for those wants and needs of the customer. Not what Andy wants, but what the customer wants. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and what would you say, Andy? What is the most significant technology trend you're seeing at the moment?
AI, most definitely.
AI,
and
everything's AI.
I will debunk the myth that AI is new. It's been around for years.
Right.
It's just smarter and quicker, and by next year it will be double the pace that it is now. But again, that's a lot of important data. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was said on the previous 2 sessions. But AI is already there and can be used smartly. We use it very much in our contact centers, not to remove the human element from it, but 80% of our customer service is now solved by AI, but good AI. It gives the right answers, and it's powerful enough to keep learning and generating. That doesn't mean that it's not useful for our contact center staff as well. That's powerful because they have more information. But the brutal reality is if you get it right, and if you're using that smart data to generate it, actually your people become more important and more powerful and have more information as well.
Yeah. Well, something I know, if you're sitting in the audience, something you love to take away home is like a list, right? Like a checklist from a session like this. So, Mirja, what would you add? So we have AI for sure. That's a trend you have to watch. What would you add to that list?
No, I actually as well adding on to AI, which is a concept from the 50s, no, when it first was announced. So when you think about hype versus trend, probably you can never really answer it. It really is only when you have use cases materialized based on this technology. No? So in Amadeus as well, we have for many years we have been using AI for different applications in order to help the operations through our Amadeus Hotel service optimization, help really the operations of the staff in the hotel. Or applications like network planning or revenue management. We have used AI there for many, many years, so it's only now that you see really the hype, no? But then you have new applications. For instance, we have Amadeus Hey, which is a travel digital assistant, which helps the traveler along the journey to first of all navigate, but as well to purchase new products along the journey, like experiences and so on. So this is when we really see the application of the technology. Then we had also blockchain was a lot of hype, no? For some years, where we thought, okay, the booking process, Amadeus is very prominent on supporting the booking of the different travel components. So we thought, okay, booking, the blockchain is going to disrupt this completely. We have seen there are some interesting projects, but it didn't really yet help to replace the existing systems. So here I would also put a word of caution. No? There's a lot of security aspects you need to take into consideration in order to really use new technology and implement it. So blockchain, I'm pretty sure it's going to be there for some years. We will see some applications there based on blockchain, but it moved a little bit away from the hype, for instance.
Right. So blockchain, is it a trend that you should consider and watch still?
Yeah,
yes? So
I
it's not
still
going to go
think
away.
that, yes. Yeah.
Okay, Deepika, what's your take? Would you add something to the list?
Yeah, one of the trends that we see is also one-click behavior, not only from the customers, but also the users. So the demographics are changing now. So if you see people at the hotels, the staff, but also the guides, this is a young generation who does not like to work with the printouts or papers and complex Excel sheets and so on. They want to have a quick app on their phone that they can just quickly click and see, okay, what are my guests that are arriving today, where would they be heading, what are their
Right.
preferences, and that's again where the front-end experience of these apps and the digital experience really differentiates. Because again, when we are looking for guides at the destinations, the young people, they really choose the employer which provides them ease of use and fun at work. So one-click experience is something that we see more and more coming in. We already saw it with the consumers, but we see it more at the destinations also coming in within Europe and outside.
Right, thank you. So we can sign the list off. We have AI, we have blockchain, we have the one-click behavior. Would you add something else, or are we good with the list to start off?
I can speak in particular about regional differences between
Right, that's
Asia
good,
and
yes.
Europe. And one thing I see in Asia, and again, I go back 10, 15 years ago, some people were still booking online in Asia, but paying in a shop. That's moved so far away now. The likes of WeChat and these one-stop shop apps, which is what we're trying to do now at Trip.com, is driving that digital revolution. We talked again years ago of you've got to have an app, you've got to be on mobile, but not the reasons why.
Right.
We've talked about the younger generation, Gen Y, Gen Z, will only use it. We're at that tipping point now. It's not just talk, they actually do it. My kids do all their homework on a mobile phone. I find it mind-blowing at my age and my insight, but they do everything on a mobile phone. So gone are the days where they'll book a holiday on a desktop. The laptops are just hidden away now. That behavior from Asia is 95% of customers. Over 80% of our customers in China book on app.
So they're also driving what's really happening in tech. So
Yeah,
are the
and again,
consumers
that's
driving
customer
what-
behavior.
Okay.
You have to solve for that, but that's coming thicker and faster into Europe.
Right, because that would be my next question. Who's driving that? Like the adoption of technology trends? Is it a company that really does research and knows what to do, or is it a consumer and you just have to follow suit?
I think it's a combination. No? I always go back to the same, to understand what is really the customer needs, customer requirements, then trying to understand what are the market dynamics, what is the environment we are operating in, and then trying to connect it to the technology and try to identify which is the right technology to answer customer needs and customer expectations. So I think it's a combination. I believe there are certain demands. It's as well then in terms of acceptance and adoption, where obviously the customer plays a big role. But it's a combination. It needs to be a cooperation and a partnership between technology companies driving and investing into evolving the new technology, but as well customers willing to work together hand in hand. So for me, it's really a cooperation and partnership approach, which helps new technology to become reality and not stay at a hype level.
Right, so the keyword partnership, right? So maybe Deepika, because we mentioned that before, right? Big ecosystem. From your perspective, who's driving your innovation? Is it your team? Is it your customers, your partners? Where do you see the pull coming?
Now it's both, but to give an example also where the company drives innovation. For example, the previous speaker mentioned that if your pricing tool is still in Excel, there's
Right.
still a long way to go. And that's what we see at Sunweb Group, for example, when it comes to our pricing strategies. We've been using machine learning as the basis for that for years now, but we're taking a next step now with partners coming on board where we really use the software solutions to actually become more and more predictive in our pricing strategies, where every night today we have millions of combinations between price and product being worked out, taking different parameters into account. But with these technology partners coming on board, we really make it further enriched, where we also use third-party data in making these pricing strategies. So you're also looking at what is competition doing, but also what's the weather data looking like? Or if there's a strike at an airport, how do you influence that in your rerouting of your pricing? So that's, again, an example where the company has to drive innovation for their own profitability and relevantness in the market. But in the end, it's a combination. And you need to keep the pace in mind. What's the pace that can also be actually lived with by the users of it?
Right, and Andy, maybe because you just mentioned the Asian example, right? What do you see in comparison then in Europe? What would you say, how is that opposed here in the Western world?
I think one of the other big differences is the digital marketing elements, social media,
Right.
and how important that's been within the journey. We do a thing called Boss Live Streams. On
Boss live stream.
So our senior leaders doing live streams with partners online, and it produces live deals, but it produces millions of dollars of business.
Right.
Because the consumer in Asia is highly engaged in that sort of marketing activity. now. We might test that in Europe.
It's an event. It's a shopping event.
It's like a shopping event,
right,
but
okay.
live stream, because it's that engagement. Again, that generation wants content. It wants things here and now. Has a short attention span, so you've got to be quick and quirky with it. But again, it's different for different regions, different for different behaviors. We look very much at that data to understand that, but the things that are coming thick and fast to Europe. The consumers everywhere, even across, you all know, across Europe, they're all different as well. So you've got to make sure not just things like we work with TransPerfect on localization. That's a big adaptation that we've made to make sure that that's right across Europe. But then also our customer behaviors and adapting that for each of our sites across Europe. So it's not one size fits all. But again, when it does come to technology, a lot of the core stuff will be it's about the efficiency behind that and the robustness.
Right, I see. So that's exciting. And well, I mean, we should only talk about the upsides, right? But there is some reason that things are not adopted and that we're struggling in some areas. So Mirja, what would you say are the main challenges we are having as companies or operators in the travel space with tech adoption?
I think the main challenge is to bring innovation. So, as I said, you need to have the right use case and use new technology, but then you have an existing ecosystem of technology, of partners, of customers, and you need to make sure that the new technology fits into this ecosystem. So the main challenge is that you innovate whilst, what I say, the airplane is already flying and you are trying to add on some new seats.
Right.
You need to make sure that this is feasible. You need to collaborate and have the backward capability in terms of the technology. And it probably requires a lot of complex project setup in order to bring everybody on board to connect the dots, no? Which is key when you operate in an ecosystem and in a complex IT system. And this is where it becomes very difficult for niche players and for smaller players, because you need to collaborate. No, we see as well that the technology innovation cycle gets quicker and quicker, so you need to adapt quicker and quicker. But then you have still the legacy and the remaining ecosystem from the past where you need to connect to, and there it really requires experts in technology and trying to support these type of very complex IT projects. And it's not only the matter of bringing one innovation into the ecosystem.
Right, I see. Is there any thoughts you'd like to add in terms of challenges that you're seeing? Or
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is the lack of standards in this ecosystem.
Right.
So, for example, when we are connecting to different channel managers or property management systems, every channel manager has their own specifications of how to connect to them. The same for the airlines. When we have to send information of the PAX data, every airline has different format and different way of accepting it. So as a tour operator, that's quite a challenge that we face that hinders our scalability. And of course, that's something we're now resolving with players like aggregators that come into play who help us with doing that. But that has been a long journey so far, where connecting to a new partner every time feels like a new thing that you're doing.
right, it sounds so easy, right? Interoperability, but it is kind of a, yeah. And
Yeah,
it is-
I think that legacy thing for the travel industry is a massive thing. But
Yes.
I think then the behaviors off the back of that can sometimes exacerbate that. So if you look to build a project end to end and it takes a year and then you launch it, but it's not right,
right.
you've just wasted all of that time. And I'll be honest, a lot of our industry still does that. You have to test and learn your way into it. Go step by step, have an MVP, a minimal viable product, launch that and then test your way into it. But still, too many of our industry don't have the funds to do that. They have the technical debt that we heard about earlier, the legacy systems, so they think a big core change to that is the leap forward. That's not the way to do it. That enables you and enables most businesses to make those steps and fund it that way, because it
Right.
self-funds rather than I'm going to make a big core investment.
So it's a mindset issue as well. Yes. Okay, Mirja?
Yep, probably a couple of comments, because I very much liked what you were saying regarding the issue of standardization and to connect and have the right data models and so on. But here again, I was pointing out a bit what are the problems of technology innovation, but it's also the opportunity where technology can help, no? Try to facilitate this layer of standardization. So whilst at one side it can be the issue, technology and innovation through technology, but it's also the opportunity, no, to standardize
Absolutely.
and connect the dots and the different systems.
Indeed. Yeah, yeah.
And then on the other side, what you're saying regarding the MVP, test and learn, I fully agree. But what we see more and more is as well an MVP, the difficulty is then to bring it to an MMP. So that you really make a marketable product, because only a little project doesn't help you really to gain the benefits you require as a business afterwards. No,
Yeah.
so it's good to get some learnings, and I would also encourage everybody to try to test and learn and try to figure out how it fits into your business, but then keep on working and bring it to an MMP maturity.
You're absolutely right. You have to have the data, and you have to be able to scale that and scale it fast. It can't be something you take over many years or just ignore, but you've also got to be aware of what those changing behaviors are. But absolutely right. Yeah.
Right, okay, I see. So it's not going to be fixed tomorrow, right? So because we have this ecosystem, we have those challenges, and it might take some time until we have standardized everything, and then maybe it's not even what everyone wants. So, well, let's see about that. But, well, we have time left, so I'd like to collect advice from each of you. So, I mean, picture you're operator in the travel industry. How do you make sure that you capitalize on the trends that are relevant, and how do you avoid to fall victim? I mean, you mentioned a few approaches, right? Testing and yeah, watching it and looking at your use case. But is there any other advice? Maybe you start to be that you say, that's what I went well with. To stay focused and invest my time well, and money as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in the end, it all comes down to the return on investment that everybody is looking at, and especially when it comes to creating room for innovation, it's very important to really embed it in the organization, because we do come from a situation where we used to have an innovation hub, and all the innovation happens there, while the day-to-day business sits in the other part of the company, and we saw that was never really taking off. And where we are now today is really embedding innovation into the mainstream of business and technology.
How do you do that?
And that's basically done with a group of not only data scientists, but also software developers or engineers, really having the time to experiment as part of their sprints or their quarterly plans, where they look at the business problems like they come in to see, can I use some of the emerging technologies to fix this? Whereas the de facto mode has always been, you get epics and features into your backlog and start writing lines of code to that. And we're turning it around where we say, okay, when a business epic comes in, please look and if you really do have to do the heavy lifting yourself, or can we use some of the technologies or partners to do that along with us?
That's an interesting advice, right? The question, do you buy it or do you build it yourself? What would you say, Miria? Is the best advice build it all yourself, build it in-house, or can you actually go shopping for the innovation and then add it to your existing system?
Yeah, it's definitely not a yes and no answer, no, of course.
Not that easy.
And it would have been one of my advices actually to say, don't try to do everything yourself. The most important is to find the right partners. Look for strong partners who have the expertise in certain technologies, in certain projects, and try to capitalize on that and focus on your core business. I think this would be one of my key advices. No, reach out. Here at ITB, it's a fantastic area. You have so many tech providers as well. Everybody is testing and trying to bring something to market. So leverage that. Don't try to do everything by yourself. And think more in an ecosystem approach, no? How I can leverage to accelerate my own innovation by partnering with strong partners on the other side.
Yeah, wonderful. Andy, would you agree, or would you
Yeah,
add to
I
it?
fully agree with that. We work with Amadeus. We've got other partners here that we work with. This is not egotistical. We're lucky to have over 10,000 engineers, so we can build a lot of stuff. We can move fast, we execute effectively, and we localize that. But there's some things that other partners will be better at. The thing you have to remember there is, are you then able to adapt that as you go forward? If it's something you integrate and then it holds your business back, that's when you're going to get more technical debt. That's where you're going to get into legacy models and technologies. So work with partners that can go forward with you. My other tip would be about talent.
Talent.
Hire the right talent. Now, again, it comes down to there's an element of cost. The travel industry is low margin. We don't pay the best salaries versus other tech industries. But we're starting to see some changes of that. The likes of Amadeus, Trip, Booking, Expedia, those tech-based companies are investing heavily in talent. But that talent also has to be adaptable. They can't be, that's my only skill, because in 5 years' time that would have changed. So they've got to be able to adapt and change their skill set as well.
Yeah, a last thought? Yes, please.
No, coming back a little bit to my initial thoughts on make sure that you use technology in order to materialize a business use case. Where you have a question in your business and something where you need to materialize something, only use then the technology. Don't do it the other way around. Use technology just to try out things, to do something. I think this doesn't add value nor to your business nor to the customers ultimately. So this would be one of my key advices, really focus on what is the business output you want to generate and then look into what technology can help you to provide this output.
I think that's a valuable advice. And I mean, I think we all have seen that, right? There is technology like blockchain, and we want to use it, so we're looking for a problem we can solve, but we can't find the proper problem for the technology, which then is unfair to the technology, because there might be a lot of potential in it, right? Well, I'd say thank you so much, and everyone here. I mean, you have 3 days now where you can engage and you can connect with people like these excellent minds here. So I want to highlight trip.com group. We can find you in Hall 9, booth 108. There's a fantastic team waiting for all of you to answer all your questions.
Absolutely, we'll see you there, right by
Yes.
the entrance of Hall 9, so
Yes.
you can't escape, just go out that way.
Yeah, and I think you can't miss it probably, right? Because I think the marketing team was busy, and the same goes for Amadeus. You have 2 booths.
Exactly.
Yeah, you make it
We have
big
one.
this year. 4.
No, 2.
Oh, 2.
No,
Okay.
exactly, I said
I was
2.
surprised.
We have one focused on hospitality solutions,
Right.
which is in Hall 8.1.
119.
Then,
Yes.
Exactly, we have another one in Hall 5.1 as well.
Yes. Yes, and Deepika, thank you so much for coming here from Holland. You're here with your team from the Netherlands, and 15 people, you said?
Yes, they're all over the place signing new contracts for next year, so mostly marketing.
So fingers crossed for plenty contracts. And thank you so much for joining me on stage. VP Hospitality Distribution at Amadeus Mia Sickle. We have General Manager EMEA at Trip.com Group, Andy Washington, and Chief Technology Officer at Sunweb Group, Deepika Gupta. It was an honor. And I wish you a wonderful ITB. Thank you so much. And
Thank you very much. Thank you.